morning. Stephen Roberts.
Hey, how are you this morning?
We're doing good. First, it's a very odd thing to have a big political week last week, a big foreign policy week last week, a big foreign policy week this week, and have Donald Trump tweeting about the most bizarre things with his lawyer. This is a weird weekend for the president.
Well, every weekend is weird with this president. You know that. But what really is this connection with his lawyer is about is this. Michael Cohen, the president's lawyer, subject to this raid a few weeks ago by federal agents, his apartment, his business office. And there are at least three reasons why Trump has to be worried that Cohen could cooperate with federal investigators. The first is that Cohen has a young family. If he's facing jail time or severe financial penalties, he'd have a strong motive to cut a deal with the Fed. Secondly, Cohen expected, given his years of loyal service to Trump, that he would get a top post in this administration. He thought he might even be White House counsel. He got nothing. And there's a lot of reporting that he was deeply wounded, to quote the Washington Post on this front. And third, he's got a lot to trade. Collusion with Russia, as you and I have said many times, is not a crime. Money laundering is a crime. And there's a lot of reporting out about the ways in which the Trump business organization strapped for cash after a number of bankruptcies, sought cash from Eastern Europe and some questionable characters. There was a big op-ed piece in the New York Times just this weekend, two investigators who spent a year looking into Trump's business dealings, and they concluded, and I quote, "We found that Trump projects have relied heavily on foreign cash, including from wealthy individuals from Russia and elsewhere with questionable and even criminal backgrounds. Taking money knowingly from folks who produced it through criminal activity is a crime under the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act." That's why Donald Trump and his team has got to be very worried about this development.
You're talking about the president of the United States talking about his attorney flipping. It's a bizarre conversation like you'd see on The Sopranos. By arguing he's not going to flip on me, isn't he admitting himself? He knows, I know I do dirty things, but you're not going to find out because my guy's not going to tell you?
Well, you can read it that way. And it's not the only evidence that we have that the president is worried. Let's start with the obvious fact that he's never released his tax return. And he has promised repeatedly to do that. Every other president, every other presidential candidate has done this over many, many years. The president still, to this day, has not released anything. And it leads to the absolutely inevitable question, what is he hiding? And it leads to the conclusion that he's hiding something he doesn't want the public to see. Maybe it's just embarrassing that he's not as rich as he tells everybody, but maybe it's more serious than that. And also, the president said some time ago that if Robert Mueller, the special counsel, started looking into the finances of the Trump businesses, that would be crossing a red line in the president's words. Again, revealing how concerned he is about that possible line of inquiry. But Mueller has crossed that red line now repeatedly, not only through the raid into Cohen's business dealings, but he has subpoenaed records, we know, from the Trump organization directly. And as I say, collusion's not a crime, but money laundering is, obstruction of justice is, conspiracy is. And these are the areas where the president's got to be worried about continuing legal vulnerability.
Stephen Roberts, last week, was it not reported that Trump's people were told he is not part of the target of the Mueller investigation?
Well, there are words of art here. He has been told that he's a subject, which means he's a person of interest, but not a target, which means he's not directly the subject of a criminal investigation. But that can change depending on how the evidence is acquired and analyzed. You know, and Rudy Giuliani, the famous New York lawyer, was appointed to head Trump's or be part of Trump's legal team in the last few days. And
right. Giuliani
said he's going to try to negotiate an end to the Mueller investigation, but that's a fantasy. I mean, the fact that they raided Cohen's office, they acquired all of this information, that tells you that investigation is far from over. And this is something that the president and his team are going to have to contend with for months, maybe even years to come.
Stephen Roberts, ABC News political analyst. Have a good day.